Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. You know, if there's one thing I've learned in life, whether it was growing up in Berkeley, stepping onto a global stage, or navigating relationships in both Bollywood and Hollywood, it's this: your energy is sacred. Your time is precious, and not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Let's get real for a moment. We live in a world that celebrates success, beauty, and fame, but too often forgets to talk about respect. About being valued, and not just when the lights are shining on you, but in quiet moments, in private conversations, in how people treat you when they have nothing to gain. So today, I want to talk about something important: how to spot people who don't truly value you, because recognizing them is the first step to protecting your peace and owning your worth. We've all encountered those people, the ones who seem warm, engaging, maybe even flattering at first. They make you feel important when they want something. They call you when they need a favor, when they want your time, your advice, your energy. But the moment you're the one reaching out, it's like you're invisible. The text is left on read. The call goes unanswered. The support is nowhere to be found. And the worst part, they never even notice what they're doing, because in their world, it's not about balance. It's about convenience. What I've realized through personal experience and plenty of trial and error is that people who don't truly value often operate with a subtle sense of entitlement. They don't see you as a human being with needs and emotions of your own. They see you as a resource, someone who's always available, someone who's always saying yes, someone who will bend over backward just to be accepted or loved. And here's the truth: that's not connection. That's emotional extraction. It's one-sided, and it's exhausting. Being generous, being compassionate, being someone who shows up for others. Those are beautiful qualities, but they should never be taken for granted. Healthy relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on reciprocity. It doesn't have to be a perfect 50/50 all the time, because life is never that clean. Sometimes you give more, sometimes they do. But over time, there should be a balance, a natural flow of mutual respect and care. When you find yourself constantly pouring from your cup and it's never being refilled, you begin to feel drained, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And what's worse, people start expecting that level of self-sacrifice from you as a norm. They forget you have boundaries, needs, limits. And if you dare to pull back or say no, they make you feel guilty, like you're the problem. Let me tell you, you're not. You are not difficult for expecting respect. You are not selfish for setting boundaries, and you are not too much for wanting to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. You are simply waking up to the reality that love, real love, is never just about giving. It's also about being held when you're tired. It's about someone checking in, not just checking out your availability. The moment you recognize that someone only values what you give and not who you are, that's your cue to reassess their place in your life. You deserve relationships that replenish you, not ones that reduce you. One of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly value you is how they respond to your success. It might seem subtle at first. You achieve something, whether it's a promotion, a personal goal, or even just a moment you're proud of, and instead of celebrating with you, they minimize it. They'll say things like, "Oh, that's nice," in a tone that feels flat or dismissive. Or they'll find a way to twist the moment, comparing it to someone else, implying that what you've done isn't that special. If you're not paying attention, you might even start to agree with them. That's the danger of keeping people around who don't respect your shine. People who don't value you are often uncomfortable when you evolve. Your growth threatens the image they've created of you in their minds. The version that stays behind, stays small, stays accessible. So when you start stepping into your power, when you raise your standards, when you succeed, they don't know how to handle it. Instead of being inspired by your journey, they feel insecure. And rather than confronting their own limitations, they try to clip your wings. I've seen it happen, especially as a woman in a competitive industry. The moment you start owning your space unapologetically, you'll find people trying to humble you to bring you back down. But you have to understand this: no one who truly values you will ever feel the need to dim your light. Real supporters clap when you win. They amplify your voice. They make space for you to grow, even if it means growing beyond them. If someone constantly finds fault in what you do or refuses to acknowledge your progress, ask yourself why they're still in your circle. You don't need that energy. You don't need to be second, guessing your joy because someone else is uncomfortable with it. Your achievements, big or small, matter. Whether you've started a business, finished a degree, made it through a tough week, or just learned to say no. For the first time, that's growth, that's power, and it deserves to be honored. You should never have to shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. The right people will never ask you to make yourself smaller so they can feel taller. They'll rise with you, they'll cheer for you, they'll remind you who you are on the days you forget, and when you win, they won't question it. They'll celebrate it, because they see your success as a reflection of your strength, not a threat to theirs. One of the most telling ways to know if someone values you is by how they listen, or don't. And I'm not just talking about hearing the words you say. I'm talking about the kind of listening that comes from presence, from care, from respect. People who truly value you listen with intention. They absorb what you're saying, they make space for your thoughts, and they honor your emotions even when they don't fully understand them. But when someone doesn't value you, their attention becomes transactional. They're not listening to connect, they're just waiting for their turn to speak. You've probably had those conversations where you're pouring your heart out, trying to explain how you feel or share something meaningful, and the other person keeps interrupting. Or worse, they completely change the subject. It's like talking to a wall that occasionally nods, and after a while you start questioning yourself. Was I being too sensitive? Did I say too much? But let me tell you something. It's not too much to want to be heard. Being listened to is a basic form of love. And when someone constantly talks over you, dismisses your opinions, or makes you feel like your voice doesn't matter, that's not just a lack of manners. It's a lack of respect. It's especially painful when this comes from someone close, because we expect our inner circle to be our safe space, but people who don't value you won't protect that space. Instead, they'll gaslight you when you express discomfort. They'll say you're overreacting or being dramatic. What they're really doing is trying to control the narrative, where their voice dominates and yours fades into the background. Being around people like that chips away at your confidence. You start to silence yourself, you shrink in conversations, you second, guess your ideas before you even speak them out loud, and that is not okay, because when someone truly sees you, they don't just tolerate your voice, they invite it. They make space for it, they respect the weight of your words, even if they disagree with them. So if you find yourself constantly being spoken over, ignored, or made to feel irrelevant, take that as the message it is. You deserve to be in rooms where people don't just hear you. They listen, where you don't have to shout to be acknowledged, because at the end of the day, respect isn't loud. It's quiet, intentional, and clear. And you are far too powerful to waste your voice on people who have no interest in understanding it. Sometimes the people who don't value you won't hurt you in obvious ways. They won't insult you outright or attack you directly. Instead, they chip away at your self-belief in small, consistent doses. They disguise their doubt as concern. They question your ambitions under the mask of realism. You'll hear things like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or maybe "Don't get your hopes up too high." And at first it seems like they're just being protective, but over time you realize something deeper, something more damaging is happening. They're planting seeds of insecurity, and those seeds start to grow in silence. People who don't value you often can't stand to see you believe in yourself. Your confidence threatens them. Your dreams make them uncomfortable, because when you dare to reach higher, it reminds them of how they've chosen to stay small. So rather than rise with you, they try to keep you where they're comfortable. They'll minimize your goals second, guess your abilities, or subtly laugh at your ideas. And the more this happens, the more you start internalizing their doubt as truth. That's when the real danger begins, not just because you start questioning yourself, but because you start holding yourself back. I've seen this play out so many times, especially with women who are bold, ambitious, and unapologetically driven. Society already tells us we're too much, too loud, too emotional, too ambitious. The last thing we need is someone close to us echoing those same limiting beliefs. If you constantly feel like you have to justify your dreams, explain your worth, or prove your intelligence to someone, that's not a healthy relationship, that's emotional erosion. The most insidious part is how normalized it becomes. You tell yourself maybe they're right, maybe you were overconfident, maybe your vision is unrealistic, And just like that, you start shrinking. Not because you're weak, but because you've been taught that it's safer than standing tall around people who don't know how to handle your light. But let me say this clearly, doubt is not love. If someone genuinely cares about you, they may challenge you, but they'll never make you feel smaller for dreaming big. They'll never belittle your ambitions or treat your confidence like a flaw. You deserve to be surrounded by people who remind you of who you are, not ones who make you forget it. Because once you start believing in yourself again, those quiet doubts lose their power. And that's when you become unstoppable. One of the most revealing ways to know if someone truly values you is by watching how they show up when things aren't glamorous. It's easy for people to be around you when life is exciting, when you're celebrating a win, achieving something big, or when the mood is light. Anyone can raise a glass with you when things are good, but the real test of someone's loyalty, of their sincerity, comes when life gets messy. When you're struggling, when you're hurting, when you have nothing to offer but your vulnerability, that's when you find out who sees you as a whole person and who only values the highlight reel. I've learned that presence during difficult moments is one of the most powerful ways love and respect are expressed, because it's uncomfortable. It requires effort, patience, and a level of emotional maturity that not everyone is willing to give. When someone disappears when you're going through a crisis, whether it's a health scare, career setback, heartbreak, or just a low period, it sends a very clear message. They were only in it for the good times. And that kind of relationship isn't built on value, it's built on convenience. It hurts, of course. You remember who didn't check in. You remember who said, "Let me know if you need anything," and then vanished. And maybe the hardest part is realizing that the people you were there for, the ones you stood beside when they needed someone, don't always do the same in return. But that pain also brings clarity. It shows you who genuinely cares about you, not just the version of you that's winning, smiling, performing, but the real you. What I've come to understand is that people who value you don't need a reason to be there. They don't show up because it benefits them. They show up because they love you, because your well-being matters to them. Even if they don't know what to say, they stay. Even if they're busy, they make time. And even if it's hard, they don't disappear. So pay attention to who checks on you when no one else does. Who stays consistent even when your life isn't shining. Those are your people. And for the ones who disappear when you're down, let them go. Let their silence be the answer you needed, because you deserve support that shows up, not just when the camera is rolling, but when the lights are off and you need someone to hold space for your truth. That's real value. Everything else is just noise. Sometimes the most confusing relationships are the ones where someone seems to value you in public, but their private actions tell a different story. They compliment you on stage, repost your achievements, smile beside you at events, or speak well of you when there's an audience. It all looks perfect from the outside. But when the cameras are off, when no one's watching, the warmth disappears. The energy shifts. Suddenly, you're not treated with that same respect, not given that same attention. And deep down, you start to feel the difference between being genuinely valued and being used for optics. People who only respect you when others are watching don't actually see you. They see what you represent to the world. Maybe you make them look good by association. Maybe being around you boosts their own image. Or maybe they enjoy being seen with someone strong, successful, and liked. But when the spotlight's gone, they don't invest in the relationship. They don't support you emotionally. They don't make space for your feelings, your flaws, your moments of vulnerability. It's all surface, and surface doesn't sustain real connection. That kind of dynamic can be incredibly isolating. You start questioning whether your bond with this person is even real. You wonder why their actions feel so conditional, so calculated. You try harder to earn their genuine care, thinking that if you just do more, achieve more, give more, they'll finally show up in the way you need. But here's the truth. Love that needs an audience isn't love. Respect that's only performed isn't respect. You deserve relationships that are consistent, not performative. People who show up for you not just when it's convenient or impressive, but when it's inconvenient, private, and quiet. When someone truly values you, their behavior doesn't change based on who's in the room. They treat you with the same kindness and attention whether it's a packed room or an empty one. Their respect isn't conditional. It's rooted in who you are, not in what you offer to the outside world. So if you find yourself surrounded by people who only lift you up when they're being watched, take a step back. Real value is measured in the moments no one sees. It's found in how someone speaks about you behind your back, how they hold space for you when there's no applause. And once you know what that kind of loyalty feels like, you'll never settle for anything less.